Take a walk down Prairie Street with Elliot Moskowitz. Founder and CEO of PrairieStreet.co, Elliot Moskowitz interviews the most interesting personalities in the Jewish and secular world. Today's guest, chef, teacher, and host of Funny People Making Food, Erica Wides.
Welcome to A Walk Down Prairie Street. My name is Elliot Moskowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of PrairieStreet.co, an e-commerce and media company. Today we have a special guest with us, Chef Erica.
Hi.
Nice to see you again on set here. We were just finished shooting some great videos, indoor and outdoor, in our new filming home in southern Florida. It's been a little challenge because you never know what the weather's going to be one minute to the next. But we made it work, and we always make it work.
We did. 1 minute it's sunny, the next it's pouring. It's all right.
So this is kind of a new experience for us because typically we've been renting out houses and taking that over, and it's logistically a pretty big deal to do, and hopefully this is our new quasi-permanent home. So we've been working together for about 2 years now, something like that. I think you've done like 20 videos for us.
At least, yeah.
At least,
so,
and I call you the masterclass teacher on of all our chefs that we have on the channel. I think my only critique of you ever is that there's so much information. You speak so fast we can't even pause to put in the tips.
I just give so much.
That's right. You're just a human Vulcan mind meld. So I think it's kind of cool that for people that see someone, they're not only learning a technique of how to make something, but it's also about the personality of who's doing it, what their background is, and how they brought that into that. And I think we've done a few of these already. This was just kind of a concept like, hey, who is Chef Kendra? Who is Chef Erica? Who is Chef David? And we kind of peel the onion, so to speak, and find out a little more about you. So some chefs are more geared towards cooking for people, some are more educators. I think it's fair to say that you're primarily in the education business.
Absolutely, yes.
So why don't you tell us, like, what got you, did you start studying cooking in college or university, or where did you go with that?
I mean, even earlier, I was a kid who was really into food. Basically, what I always say is I was kind of a food-obsessed fat kid.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you know, I was a little chubby and I was very into food. And also I grew up in a family where we were, you know, we did a lot of cooking from scratch, and my mom would like put up jam and make pickles. You know, it was the 70s and they were sort of a little bit of like a back to the land feeling in our house. But yeah, I was always into food, but you know, in the era that I grew up, you didn't become a chef. It wasn't like a career option. Like that was never presented to you as something you could do, especially for a girl. You know, chefs were like these like old French guys on TV. It was before the Food Network. It was really before like the whole kind of American food restaurant revolution happened in the 80s and 90s. And so it never dawned on me that that's what I could do. But I was a very creative child, so I wound up going to art school for college. I majored in photography and art history, and then when I got out, I graduated, and I realized pretty quickly that the people who make it in the art world are generally the people who have rich parents. I didn't. It kind of didn't occur to me. And so I did what every other artist does. I started waiting tables. And while I was working in restaurants, I was like, this is okay, but like, what's going on back there? Like, I really like what I'm seeing back there. I was always into cooking, always really into food. And so a couple of things one thing led to another. Also, my artwork in college incorporated a lot of food themes. And so it was sort of like all signs were pointing to go.
Did you find that the artwork helped you later in life in plating and how you design things a little?
Yeah, maybe.
Or just having a sense of
I think just
design.
having like an art background, and, you know, understanding color and pattern and stuff like that. So I decided to shift careers, to make a little change. And because I had already gone to college and spent 4 years and a lot of money, and I was in debt, I just went to like a very short culinary school program, just sort of enough to get out there and get a job. So that's what I did. I started working in restaurants in Manhattan, and I spent about 7 years in that world, working my way up. I became a sous chef, and then I got tired because it's really hard and it's really rough on your body and it's a very hard life. So I thought, well, let me take a little break and do something else in the food world, but not on the line. as we say. And so I got a job teaching. I had never taught before, but I guess I interviewed well, and I was hired at a school that is now called the Institute of Culinary Education. Back then it was called Peter Kump's. I started teaching there in the professional chef program and in the recreational program. And I thought teaching would be sort of just a couple of years and then I'd open a restaurant or something, but it turned out I was really good at it, and I found that I really loved it. And so I stayed there for 15 years. So I wound up kind of working my way up in seniority at ICE, and by the time I left, I was like senior instructor. So yeah, I was there for 15 years, and then I left, and then I started teaching at a little teeny one-room schoolhouse recreational school in Soho called Home Cooking New York, and I've been there for 10 years now. So that was kind of how it all happened. And you know, I just kind of, I liked the hands-on of restaurants, and I liked working as part of a team, and it was sort of exciting and fun. But it's also, you know, it's brutal, and it's not a lot of money, and you work when everyone else plays, and you work nights.
It's hard to balance family life.
It's just hard to have any sort of life. And what I realized very quickly when I was teaching was that I'm really a much better teacher, communicator, educator than I was ever going to be chef. You know, like I'm a pretty good cook, but I knew I didn't really have it in me to like run my own team or run my own line. But I was like, oh, I'm actually a really good teacher. I can stand up in front of a group and, you know, give a lecture on anything and keep people entertained. So that's how it happened. And then that all kind of also led to a career in media. So I started doing the occasional food media job. You know, when I was teaching at ICE, I was on Martha Stewart Morning Living Radio a bunch of times, and then that actually led to me having my own radio show and podcast for 7 years. And then from that, I wound up doing voiceover work, and when I got signed with an agency for voiceover, they were like, yeah, voiceover, but you have a great look, and you're just the right age. We want to sign you for commercial work and print work, and so now I'm actually also a commercial actor and lifestyle model.
Well, here you are slumming at the Prairie Street set when you have all that stuff going on.
You're lucky to have me.
I am very lucky to have you, and we appreciate when you come by. For me, like when I started doing these videos a few years ago and had zero idea what I was doing, one of the things that when I was working with my first chef that I was listening when saying, you know, who's our audience for these videos here? Like, how much do they know? Are we taking an expert that's taking it another higher level expertise? Are we taking somebody that's intimidated and has no experience whatsoever? And what I tried to do was kind of make it for all audiences that no matter what level you are, and we started putting these tips out that when someone said something that I call like a diamond of information, no matter what level you are, I think in all our videos, you could be a professional chef. There's something you could learn from. And if you've never done it before, there's something to learn from. And so what we've been really excited to have you on set is that I see tips, you know, when I'm sitting behind the camera, flying nonstop from you, but they're at all different levels. And what we're trying to also accomplish is we're building concepts versus someone just taking a recipe, they're following it exactly, and it's more, it's like, oh, you could take this. We had to make 1 million adjustments today because all of a sudden it's sunny and 2 minutes later it's a thunderstorm and then we're moving and improvising like all the time. But that's the same thing with cooking. What do you have? What can you use? How do you mix it? Maybe you start at one method,
you have to be
finish
nimble.
it. You have to be very nimble and you know, we try to concentrate on not only multiple personalities because people engage with people differently, but multiple methods. And that's one of the things that I'm super proud of, that we've done videos in sous vide, air fryer, stovetop, grill, smoker, pizza oven, asado, like basically any method of cooking, ANOVA, we could think of, we're on there. And because typically I would say most people, amateurs, like to stick in 1 or 2 methods and they don't like to get out of their lane. But technology is having a major impact on cooking and making people's lives easier. And we're not going to tell you which way to use or what camera to buy, but whatever you do, this works for you. And I think that's one of the big objectives that we're trying to do on the channel. But I think the other thing that for me is a lot of fun doing this with you is you have a good sense of humor. So how did you tell the story of how you weaved in comedy into cooking?
You know, you're not supposed to say that you know you're funny, but I know I'm funny. I was a funny kid. What I realized when I was teaching, especially when I was teaching like real culinary school where you have to get up and lecture and keep your students engaged, was that throwing little bits of humor in there was a great way to keep them engaged and keep them focused and sort of keep them, you know, like eyes up front. And my students in their evaluations would always say like, oh, Chef Erica's great, she's full of information, she's a little bit mean, but she's really funny. You know, that's kind of what I heard. I wasn't mean, I was just tough. And what I realized is that when you're standing up in front of a group of people teaching, you're basically doing like a stand-up routine, you know, and I had like a whole repertoire of jokes and I had material. And so that led to doing a little bit of stand-up work, and I did some comedic storytelling shows that I built around food. And then I got this idea for a web series. After watching Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, Jerry Seinfeld's show, I had this idea of like, well, why can't I like be like in the kitchen with comedians cooking with them? And so I got in touch with a handful of people that I know who were comedians, and I was lucky enough to find a really good little crew, and we put it all together, and I shot my pilot, and I was very lucky because I got Bridget Everett to be my guest on my pilot. Now people know who she is because she's a huge star now. She has a show on HBO. She's probably going to get nominated for an Emmy. I knew her because we had worked together in a hotel in Maine years ago, and she's amazing. So we shot this pilot, and it went really well, and so then I shot like 5 or 6 more episodes, and they're on YouTube. It's called Funny People Making Food. But I was self-funding it, I produced it, I paid for it, and as you know, production is expensive.
Yes.
So I had those 6 episodes on YouTube, and they did pretty well, but you know, I thought like, oh, you shoot these episodes, you put them up on YouTube, and then you know, you're gonna get a phone call from a network, and they're gonna be like, we love it, here's $5 million, let's produce it. That didn't happen. So we kind of sat there for a couple of years, and I thought, you know, I want to get more traction out of it. So I met this much younger person who's very good with social media, and she said, well, let's just take them and let's chop them up in little bits and put them up on Instagram. And so that's what we started doing about a year ago. We just chopped the episodes up, we put them up on Instagram, and then of course we ran out of material. So she said, well, let's just start doing original content. She's like, just get up there, you know, show people how to dice a carrot, show them how to, you know, peel a potato, whatever. And so that's what we did. We just started creating like little tiny Instagram cooking videos, and that's sort of where it's at now. And it's called, the Instagram is called Funny People Making Food because that's what the series was called too.
It's great, and I think we're talking about doing some collaborations together, and I think it would be great for you to help us put some of the shorts together of the long videos that we've done, because definitely it's a challenge for us of trying to figure out in a world where the whole social media world is upended and changing all the time, what it wants. So in a way, you have to almost ignore what they're doing and just work on good quality and trying to make better production. So we work at a pretty high level for production and pre-production and trying to show you value added. We're expanding the channel to items that we don't even sell to make it a comprehensive channel. But I think this is going to be really excellent and give us more diversity and more interesting content that we could constantly publish. I could see when people are in a jam, and that's why we took all our content in Prairie Street. And we, not only you don't have to go to the social media, the recipes and the videos and the magazines and the podcasts are all there, and you have one stop to do that. Someone's in a rush, they just need a 2-minute recipe. Well, boom, we found this. This is great, but then they want to go more in depth, they could watch the longer form. So we're really trying to cover all types of personalities, all kinds of types of people.
And all types of cooking, because now we're creating content, it's not just about meat. And I think that's really important, you know.
And it's also different cultures, like we're kind of going around the world and showing international recipes. And,
right, and showing people also, you know, how to do all their sides and sauces and plants and salads, and, you know, because you're not just going to serve a meal of a piece of meat. You have to put everything with it, and you want to appeal to your whole family, and maybe you have friends or family who don't necessarily eat meat, and so this is a great way for you to incorporate these recipes and create, you know, a whole tailored menu for your family.
Right, or even something as basic of not having a meat thermometer, so someone's making like a 4-bone prime rib, and they really have no idea when the thing is ready. Like a few chefs, maybe you can touch the outside and know what's going on 2 inches inside, but most people can't do that. And I think if you just use the right tools, you keep on touch. And what I found for me, which has been personally satisfying, I have friends that, you know, are recipe to the book followers and stuff. You know, I call them like the OCD on steroids people. And they just go and they just follow that. But I go, here's another method. We just did this beef ossobuco soup. And they go, wow. And they tried it. And then that becomes part of their portfolio. I mean, how many people do you know cook the same things for the last 30 years, right? So to get someone to get out of their zone, their zone, and that's kind of the education aspect that we've made a huge commitment to do and for our clients.
Well, it's all about having good technique and good skills, and so that's really I feel like that's sort of my role here, is to create the videos that are all about the basic technique and the skills, and, you know, be the cooking teacher of the family here and show people, you know, give them, what I always say when I teach is I want to give people tools for their toolbox. I want you to fill up your toolbox with skills and techniques that you can then take and apply to any recipe successfully, or you can be an intuitive cook where you don't need a recipe anymore and you can let the ingredients drive the cooking.
Right, but the one thing I would just add to that is you could have the greatest techniques in the world, but it all starts with the quality of the product that you're starting with. And that's kind of why we do both these things. I mean, we're known as like probably one of the highest quality kosher meat companies in the world, and consistent quality is our mantra. So we take this quality and we just use a method to upgrade a lower class of meat. We take a great piece of meat and you're in the stratosphere. I mean, I'd love to make a compilation video of Sandy, my editor, you should be listening to this, of just doing a take of every time you do the tasting and you go like,
this is the best piece of meat I've ever
eaten. And I think I take it as authentic of someone that really does thing. And I think we're proud, even though we're not in the non-kosher world heavily, that many people that have tasted both for a long time really are impressed with our quality and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and you know what I always say to people about meat is like, because people always say, you know, I want to eat less meat. And I always say, well, you know, what you should do is you should eat the best meat possible, and then maybe don't eat so much meat. You know, like pay for the good stuff instead of eating a lot of cheap stuff.
That's me. It's basically, I don't eat a lot that much anymore, but it's all about the taste.
And the quality.
And the quality. And if you nail that taste, and I'm the quality control guy here after the shoot's done. Make sure that after they've photographed everything.
There's a lot of meat eating that goes on.
Well, I usually take one bite, but I know right away. And you guys are all extremely talented. We're really lucky to have you on set.
Well, I feel lucky to be a part of it.
And we appreciate the fact that you actually want to come back and do this again and again with us. So thank you for coming on a walk down Prairie Street.
Yeah, we have a great team.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Safe
you, Elliot.
flights back to New York. Probably be on the plane after you, and we'll see you the next time on a walk down Prairie Street. Thank you very much for coming.
Subscribe to our channel now and set your notifications so you don't miss our latest recipes and chef-led tutorials. Then head over to prairiestreet.co to shop for your next big meal.